What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Halftime Snacks podcast. This show features short interviews that you can listen during the halftime of your favorite sports events. Every Tuesday, I host fun conversations with talented people in the sports industry where we'll learn from their stories, knowledge, and experiences. So go grab your favorite snack and come snack with us. Are you ready? Let's go! Joining us today for the Halftime Snacks is a professional sailor and coach, experienced executive and leader in the sport of sailing by winning multiple national and international championships. Originally from Israel, this sports enthusiast has over 10 years of experience in business development in diverse tech companies. Today, he's the CEO and co-founder of Sea Analytics, a video-based platform that analyzes the performance of sailing athletes and help them improve through personalized insights. It is an honor and pleasure to host him in today's halftime snack. Ladies and gentlemen, Omer Brand.
Hey, yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the halftime snacks. Want to kick off our conversation with an icebreaker, and I want to ask you, let's say that if you could have a time machine, okay? You can choose. You can only go to the future or you can only go to the past. What would you choose?
Oh man. Um, Damn. I'd probably go I'd go to the future for sure. Heck,
To the future.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see what's going on, especially in my world of sports and sailing. There's so much development going on. I just can't wait to see what's coming up next.
You know how they say that entrepreneurs are actually founders that come from the future and they're trying to build what they saw? So probably that's the reason why you're planning on going to the future, because you're actually building it. Omer, man, that's an amazing answer. Let's start with, straight away with sailing and the sport, which I find super fascinating because of its uniqueness. Let's talk about, first of all, what are some of the lessons, 2 or 3 life lessons that you've learned so far in your lifetime through sailing? You've been a professional sailing, Olympic level, So how about you share with us a couple of life lessons that you've learned from it?
So that's interesting. So sailing is really a complicated sport, right? And obviously, I think it's fascinating, and I'm a bit biased probably. But it is a fascinating sport because it teaches you physics and mathematics and mechanics, and you have to learn the weather patterns and how to work a boat and how to work in a team, and and take tactical decisions in an always changing environment, right? Like the sea is always changing, and so that's interesting. And you really have to be to adapt to all of that. So one of them is you learn really quickly that going from A to B is never linear, right? It's not a straight line. Trying to go against the wind, or what we call upwind in sailing, you just can't do that on a sailboat, right? You always have to tack and jibe and change your course and adjust your sails and whatnot. So this is one thing, and this is sort of similar to what's happening in life, right? Like you think you're gonna go one way and plan everything, and then something throws you off course, and you have to you have to think back on your feet and change directions and take the best shift or the best breeze, as we say in sailing. And I think this is one thing that is quite I learned from quite good, I think. And second is teamwork, right? To make a sailboat work, it's quite a complex thing. So when everything is going right and everybody in the team know what they're doing and everything is going according to plan, that's amazing. And even that, it takes time to master. But then when everything is going pear-shaped, this is when you need to have a really, really good teamwork and really good communication between the team. And again, this is you can take it to anything else and everything else in life. So communication and trusting each other and having each other backs and preparation, that is those traits are key to success.
You've been sailing for a couple of years now. Maybe you want to share with us a little bit of how it was before, and how exactly have you seen that technology has transformed sailing in many ways. So if you want to share maybe the things that have impressed you the most from how it started and how it's going, or just share with us how that transition has been happening throughout the years.
Yeah, so I'm sailing a bit more than a couple of years. I'm sailing for, I don't know, 30 years almost, if not more, actually. So it's a long time, and the development during those years was, I know it sounds like a long time, 30 years, but the development was absolutely amazing. And especially in the past 10 years, um, when the sailing industry, and I'm not talking about Sea Analytics or myself, just the sailing industry, um, decided to take a lot more technological approach to sailing, and it's in the way they build boats and design boats and how they control them. So there is a lot more use in advanced materials like carbon fiber and titanium and whatnot. So really, really strong and really light materials that allows to build lighter and faster boats. And that comes with better design. And the better design comes with better softwares and better predictions and all that kind of things, which now we see a lot of hydrofoiling boats. So basically boats that flying above the water, and they're doing 2 to 3 times the speed of the wind, which propel them. So that is when people see that this is just blowing their mind, right? Because how can you go faster than the wind that propels you? That doesn't make any sense almost, right? Unless you know physics. um, yeah, so those are massive advances especially in the past 10 or 15 years or so. And with those boats that we see going a lot faster and a lot more complex, we see better control systems, and control systems can be either mechanically, but also better software and better electronics on the boats. And that is just been doing huge leaps forward in the past 10 or 15 years. That's just amazing.
Yeah, I guess that, I mean, I want to hear the story of Sea Analytics, because that is really just as an example of how new and different types of technologies are being implemented. But how about we just start that with the story, how you got the idea to create this technology, what was the process of building this technology, like what types of techs are you layering together to make this happen, what sort of changes have you been doing along the way? Just share with us the quick story of Sea Analytics.
The idea started when I was doing my last Olympic campaign, and we didn't really have a coach for a lot of the time. So myself and my sailing partner, we did a lot of the analytics ourselves. So we put all sorts of sensors on the boat and GoPros and whatever. And after the sailing session, we sat for hours and hours trying to sync everything and take all this data and footage and video and try to make sense out of it. And that's time consuming, right? And when I looked at it, and when I looked at it, and I tried to see what we were doing along the way. So for the past 30 years, despite the technology in boats that advanced, the technology of how you actually analyze your sailing is not really advanced, and it definitely didn't trickle down to, say, the club level or grassroots level. And so that was one thing. And then second thing, when you sit down with so much data, let it be sensors or let it be video, it doesn't matter. If most people are not analysts, and then when you can give them as much data as you want, they don't make sense out of it, right? And then it's useless. So for me, it was a better way to do it. I just had to find a better way to do it and try to help the sport I love. And if I can make a business out of it, even better. I had this idea of how I can create this platform that anyone can upload their videos from their phones or GoPros or whatnot, and the data from the sensors, and magically everything will sync, and magically something will happen, and we'll extract only the points of interest and some highlights of the day that will tell you, okay, you should look at 1, 2, 3 points, and that's it, and make sense out of the day and come up with an actionable item. And that's it. If from every training session you come with one actionable item, then you're winning, right? You're making progress. And that was the idea. Then I met my co-founder. His name is Ronnie. He's a very, very good tech guy, and a very enthusiast sailors for the past 20 years. And trying to talk to him and run him through my idea that I had in my head, he drafted some sort of a tech solution. We can go into it if you want, but some sort of a tech solution of how we can extract all this data and come up with some sort of insight based on our algorithms that we develop in-house. And we actually did it, and we're still early stages and whatnot, but the platform is working. We have user base of sailors from all levels, from club sailors in Israel to Olympic sailors in Europe, and pro sailors and professional teams in France and Australia, right? So we are testing this method in different level, and the feedback that we get is actually a lot better than expected, especially for an early stage startup.
Yeah, and what I like about C Analytics is that, first of all, it came from a passion of yours. As you've said, you've been doing it for 30 years, so kind of like you love it, and you've always, I'm sure that you've always been thinking, how can you improve things, how can you make things better, and so that's why kind of like you see in the future, and you see like what's happening around there, and trying to improve the way athletes do it, and athletes perform. So I guess that I think it's fascinating. What is exactly your go-to market strategy for C Analytics? What are you thinking in terms of like delivering more value than any other people or any other company in the world? What is your mindset towards getting a competitive advantage? Is it really in the quality of the insights, or more in the quality of the technology, or is it the combination of both? Like, what are you thinking about how do you conquer the whole sailing market around the world?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. You remember I said that most people are not analysts, right? So big budget teams like Olympic teams or whatnot, first of all, they might have the knowledge of analyzing their own sailing because they've been doing it for years, and that's their job. But they also have the budget to hire analysts, and they have their ways to somehow keep and log this data. Doesn't matter if it's high tech or not, but they do have those systems. Whereas once you go, say, even one level below that, and it can be a club racers, or it can be someone who is aspiring to be an Olympian, or even the local guy at your yacht club that wants to win the club racing, right? Today, they don't really have a way to log all of their data in easy way, especially not their video footage, in an easy way, if they want to keep going back to it and compare it to previous sessions and whatnot. Our system allowed it. So not only that it's sorting everything out and extract the meaningful events, but it also stores everything in the cloud, in your own personal profile. You get your own personal insights, and you keep it for long term. So it's really easy to see improvement or or whatnot. Um, Now, because sailing, for example, is not such a big sport, then the tech solutions for that are not many, if any. So now when we are approaching sailing clubs, and just local sailing clubs that, for kids from the age of say 10 or 12 and up, and some of them may want to be Olympians in the future, some of them may not, but um, once we give them that platform and suddenly the coach has a better visibility for the sailors and the club manager have better visibility of what the coaches are doing, and suddenly the parents can see what the kids are doing. um, so suddenly we have a platform that everybody wants to be a part of, and they suddenly see they need it, right? um, so that's one thing. Second thing that we do is by developing our own algorithms that says, okay, this is an important event and this is a meaningful event or whatnot, we help filter out all the garbage from the day and make the debrief a very, very effective debrief. So it doesn't take much time to go over things, and you don't waste a lot of time on, going through rubbish. And that's why the Olympic team loves us, because yes, they may have their analysts and they are very good, but they still looking at it and say, oh, hang on a minute, instead of sitting for 2 or 3 hours trying to analyze things, I can do it in less than an hour, or I can do it in 20 minutes or whatever. And I can do it when I'm going back home because it's all sitting in the cloud, and I can log into it from wherever I am and see everything and start communicating with my coach. So this is what we do now, and this is our go-to market. For now, we are not advertising big time, so it's all going from word of mouth, but and some targeted clubs. Yeah, that's the idea for now.
Yeah, it's all about, really getting to iterate and finding better ways to deliver the product or the solution, and coming up with smarter ways to provide better insights or more relevant insights. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe I'm brainstorming here, but maybe using machine learning and AI to recognize specific patterns or specific trends in personalized to each one of the athletes. Then once it feels more personal, like, you can't really substitute that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not easy to substitute personalized. It's like how hard it is to really change doctors, right? Because the doctor knows you really well. So if C Analytics becomes the doctor of all the sailors, then it's going to be really hard to substitute C Analytics. So they are going to stick to it, eventually for good. So I think that you're in a great position now, Omer. And one of the other things that I'm very curious about to ask you is that is this fact that this sport, sailing, is one of these unique sports, this, as you mentioned, not so popular but still kind of like relevant and interesting sports, especially because of how tough it is, how risky it is, how it plays out in the sea. So I want to know if there are some kind of like counterintuitive or non-obvious facts that you've learned through your experience about the ocean, about the weather, or other type of climatic factors, through either your experience as a sailor, or through C Analytics, or through everything that you've been learning. Is there anything that you can tell us about kind of like this element of the sport that is really unique, that you definitely won't find it on soccer? Zero possibility that you're gonna find it on baseball, but you can really find it on sailing.
Oh man, so I wasn't football or soccer player. I've been put in a boat when I was 7 or 8 years old. That's what basically I was doing since then. um, that said, um, sailing, it's really well rounded sport, which is quite nice because I think, as I mentioned before, you really have to take into consideration the weather and your equipment, and you really have to learn how to use and adjust and tune your equipment to your personal body type, for example, or sailing type. Um, it's a very diverse sport. Men and women can compete against each other almost on a level playing field, especially if the weather is not rough, if the wind is not too strong, then your physical strength has not that much factor in it, right? It's not a big factor. So women can compete with men quite easily, and that's not to say that women are weaker than men, but it's great. It really is great, and I think that sailing is one of the few Olympic sports that you can see mixed classes. So you can see boats that you have a man and a woman on them racing against each other, and this is great. Now counterintuitive, I'm not sure because I was doing it for so long. So no, I don't have a clear
Yeah,
answer on it.
but for instance, what you mentioned just now about how like your physical strength may not really be a factor. Like this is, for instance, something counterintuitive for me, because I would say like, yeah, but if you're stronger than someone else, then you might be able to pull specific winds or grab specific type of waves. But you say it's not really like that. So that, for instance, is counterintuitive. I wonder
Okay.
if there's any other fact that you can think about now, related also to the waves or the sea, or how to, like, how it feels. Can you share with us how it really, how can you, if there's anything that you can know of in terms of like how it really feels when you step into the ocean
Yeah.
from.
So this is actually quite interesting. So in regards to C analytics, when I was younger, and a lot of people still do that, right? When you go racing or training in places, you take notes of the weather to start and learning patterns. Now, what we do with C analytics in order to make better insights, we gather weather data on the platform, and then we let people rate it if it was a good one or not good, or change it if it's not accurate, because for now we take it from forecasts websites. um, and what we see is that more often than not, the weather is really not stable, and a lot of the time the forecast can be quite a bit off. And I'm not a weatherman, so I'm not quite sure what it means. And it doesn't feel like it used to be like that in the past. It feels like in the past we were a little bit better on weather patterns, and today it just seems a bit more all over the place.
That's very interesting. I think that it's one of those kind of like things that there's just so much room to learn and improve, that science hasn't really got their hands on, more than like 1% of what's happening. Understanding weather patterns and what really changes winds and what really creates specific conditions. So I think that it's a really interesting area, really interesting sports. It's great to see that people like you are developing towards improving it and bringing more attention and solution to it. So man, I recognize and I take my hat off for that, Omer. Man, and I've been enjoying this conversation with you a lot, Omer. It has been fun. It has been interesting and insightful. And I can't leave without asking you a one last and more personal question. And that is, I want to ask you, what has been the best day of your life, and why do you remember that day to be the best day of your life?
Oh man, there's so many. If I look at sailing, it's quite difficult to choose. I think um, one of the days that I remember, I raced in regatta, an offshore race called Sydney to Hobart. Quite a tough race, and finishing that race was just amazing. Um, that's one thing. But then, I have two daughters, so if I said any of their birthdays, so oh man, I'll get into trouble. So
No, I like that you're keeping your family in mind, and that speaks a lot about you, Omer. Man, I want to thank you so much for coming to the halftime snacks. It has been such a pleasure and such a fun time. I can't wait to get in that time machine, go to the future, and see what you accomplished through C Analytics and everything that you've been developing, man. I'm sure it's gonna be huge. And man, I can't thank you enough for coming. So yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming to the halftime snacks. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy learning about the business and technology behind sports, make sure you subscribe to the Sports Tech Biz newsletter. I'll leave the link in the show notes. See you all next week. Bye bye.